What if one small decision could change the course of everything, your life, the world, the future? Imagine this, a man, trapped in a high-stakes game of life and death, forced to choose between saving everything he loves or plunging the world into chaos. The clock is ticking. The countdown is nearing its end. Every second that passes brings him closer to an unimaginable decision. But when he presses that final button, everything, starts to unravel in ways no one could have predicted. A strange figure appears. The walls begin to shake. And the impossible becomes reality. What happens when you can't escape your own choices? Don't blink. Don't look away. The truth is more dangerous than you think. Watch until the end, because you won't believe what happens next. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon in Southside Chicago. The sun hung low. Shadows stretched across the cracked pavement. Detective Paul Renner leaned against his cruiser, sipping coffee. He hated this part of town. Said it was filthy. Said it was full of trouble. His partner, rookie officer Jesse Ward, kept quiet. This was only Jesse's third week. And he had already seen enough of Renner's attitude. The scanner crackled. Suspicious male, corner of 35th and Langley. Elderly. Possibly loitering. Renner smirked. Let me guess. Another old junkie with a story. Jesse hesitated. Should we call it in first? Renner was already sliding into the driver's seat. Why waste time? I will scare him straight. They pulled up fast. An old black man sat on a bench near the corner. Wearing a tweed coat. Holding a flip phone. And reading a folded newspaper. Renner stepped out with force. Hey! You live around here. The man looked up slowly. Calm. Peaceful. His eyes were clear and intelligent. Just waiting for someone, he said. Renner scoffed. Yeah. Who? Dealer. Or do you just like taking up public space? Jesse shifted uncomfortably. The old man smiled faintly. That phone call I just made. You will want to be careful. Renner laughed. Yeah. What are you, a secret agent? You know how many people bluff like that? The old man kept smiling. But said nothing more. Renner reached for his cuffs. Stand up. Let us see some ID. Officer, Jesse said, maybe we should. Renner cut him off. Rookies do not question protocol. This guy reeks of setup. As Renner stepped forward. The old man whispered something. Jesse barely caught it. Just one word. Checkmate. Renner froze. A soft chirping sound came from the old man's phone. Then, a distant whine. Sirens. 3 unmarked SUVs turned the corner. Fast. Smooth. No screeching. No delay. Federal agents. Renner blinked. What the hell? A tall woman in a black suit stepped out. Flashed a badge. FBI. Step away from Mr. Ellison immediately. Jesse stepped back. Renner stood still, stunned. The old man rose. Still calm. Still smiling. Officers, this bench is a known neutral zone. It has been for years. The woman turned to Jesse. Do you know who this man is? Jesse shook his head. He built the first cyber tracking net for Homeland after September 11th. He wrote the encryption protocol for classified mobile units. She paused. And he just finished warning us about a mole in your department. Renner's face drained of color. You have got to be kidding me. Mr. Ellison adjusted his coat. No jokes today, officer. He looked directly into Renner's eyes. Just consequences. Behind them, more agents approached. One held a sealed black folder. Another carried an evidence bag. Jesse took a step back. The whole block seemed to hold its breath. The wind stopped. Even the birds were silent. "Detective Renner," the agent said. "You are under arrest for obstruction, misconduct, and classified data compromise." Renner could not move. His mouth opened. No sound came. Mr. Ellison looked up at the sky. Then at Jesse. "You still have time to choose who you want to be, son." And then. Jesse's pulse pounded in his ears. His mouth felt dry. He looked at Renner, frozen, pale, furious. But more than anything, afraid. "Wait, this has to be a mistake," Renner muttered. "Do not do this. You are making a mistake." The lead agent did not blink. "We have been watching you for months. That phone call Mr. Ellison made was not to report you. It was the final signal to initiate your takedown." Jesse took another step back. His legs felt weak. Everything he thought he knew about policing. About his department. It all cracked like glass. "You are with him." Renner turned to Jesse, voice trembling. "You knew about this?" Jesse shook his head. He did not speak. Could not. The agents placed Renner in cuffs. He did not resist. Not anymore. His eyes flicked to Mr. Ellison. Full of hatred. But also, shame. "You set me up," Renner whispered. Mr. Ellison raised an eyebrow. "No. I gave you a chance to do your job with dignity. You failed." The cuffs clicked. Renner flinched. Agents began walking him toward the SUV. Crowds started forming at the edges of the street. Phones came out. The story was already spreading. Jesse turned to Mr. Ellison. I did not know. I thought he was just tough. Old school." Mr. Ellison studied him. "You looked away when he crossed the line. You flinched, but you stayed quiet." Jesse swallowed hard. "I do not want to be like him." "Then do better," Mr. Ellison said. His voice was not angry. Just tired. Truth is not a weapon. It is a responsibility. Suddenly, the phone in Mr. Ellison's pocket buzzed. He checked it. His expression shifted. Slightly. A crease formed in his brow. The lead agent approached again. "Mr. Ellison, we need to move. Now." "Why?" She showed him the screen of her secure tablet. Jesse could not see what it said. But Mr. Ellison's face changed completely. All the calmness drained. He whispered one word. "Impossible." He turned to Jesse. "Do you have your radio?" Jesse nodded. "Patch it to the emergency homeland frequency. Now." Jesse fumbled with his belt. "What is going on?" Ellison did not answer right away. He leaned in. His voice low. "There is something coming. Bigger than Renner. Bigger than all of us." The mole he worked for was just the beginning. A low rumble echoed in the distance. Not thunder. Not traffic. Something else. Jesse froze. The sky. It started to darken, unnaturally fast. The lead agent looked up. So did the crowd. Everyone silent. Then came the sirens. But this time. They were not from police. They were military. And they were heading straight for them. The sound grew louder. More urgent. A deep hum vibrated through the pavement. Jesse gripped his radio tighter. "Dispatch, this is Officer Jesse Ward. Do you read?" Static. No response. He tried again. Still nothing. The lead agent turned to her team. Switch to fallback channel. Full encryption. Now. Mr. Ellison's fingers danced across his phone. Then he stopped. He looked at Jessie. How far are you willing to go to protect what matters? Jessie blinked. I do not understand. You will, Ellison said. If you survive the next 15 minutes. The first military vehicle appeared at the end of the street. A black, armored transport. No insignia. No flags. Just matte plating and tinted glass. Another followed behind it. Then another. The crowd began backing away. Some ran. Others stood frozen. The air changed. Heavy. Like before a storm. But colder. Too cold. Jessie's breath came out in a cloud. In June. What is happening? Jessie asked. Ellison locked eyes with the agent. You said the breach was internal. It is worse than that, she said. Someone activated Protocol Blackbird. Ellison staggered back. No one has touched that since 2007. They did today, she said. And the signal came from inside CPD servers. Jessie's blood ran cold. You mean Chicago police? Ellison nodded grimly. Renner was not the disease. He was just the symptom. The first of many. The black transport vehicles stopped. Doors opened. Men stepped out. No badges. No ranks. Helmets with dark visors. Weapons drawn. Their movements. Too precise. Too synchronized. Those are not soldiers, Jessie whispered. They are not police either, the agent said. They are shadows. Contractors from a program we buried 15 years ago. The lead figure stepped forward. He pointed directly at Mr. Ellison. No words. Just a cold gesture. Ellison sighed. Then reached into his coat. And pulled out. Not a gun. Not a badge. But a thin silver keycard with red edges. The agent's eyes widened. You still have that? I hoped I would never use it again, Ellison said. He turned to Jessie. If you follow me now, there is no going back. Jessie looked at the armored figures approaching. Then at Renner, still in cuffs. Then at the swirling clouds above. And the unnatural chill gripping the street. His decision had to be made. Now. Tell me what to do, Jessie said. Ellison nodded. Run. He tapped the keycard to a panel on the side of the bench. With a soft hiss, a hidden panel opened beneath them. A stairwell. Narrow. Lit with blue emergency lights. Go. Ellison shouted. The shadows opened fire. But the bullets hit something invisible. A dome shimmered around the bench. A silent shield. Move, Jessie. Jessie leapt down the stairs. Ellison followed. The hatch slid closed above them. The world outside vanished. Below. A cold corridor stretched out before them. Silent. Empty. But Jessie felt it. Something waited in the dark. Something ancient. And awake. The hallway felt colder the deeper they went. Every step echoed. The dim blue lights flickered above, casting long shadows on the walls. Jessie's heart raced. This was not just a hidden basement. This was something different. Something off the records. Ellison moved quickly, never looking back. Jessie kept pace, his breath shallow. Where are we going? Jessie asked, voice tight with nerves. Ellison did not answer right away. He turned a sharp corner, stopping at a steel door. It was massive, covered in security panels. "Code green," Ellison muttered, swiping the silver keycard. The door hissed and groaned, unlocking with a loud clunk. Ellison pushed it open. Beyond was a large, circular room. The walls were lined with high-tech screens, all displaying streams of data. A central console hummed with activity, and at its center stood a solitary figure, clad in a lab coat. The figure didn't turn, but Jesse could feel their presence. A weight. A power. Ellison stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind them, sealing them in. "This is where it all ends," Ellison said, voice low. Jesse stared at the lab coat figure. "Who are they?" Ellison did not answer immediately. The figure finally turned, revealing a face Jesse did not recognize. But there was something eerily familiar about their eyes. They were calm. But not in the way Ellison had been. This calm was unnerving. "I thought you were dead," Ellison whispered. The figure smiled faintly. "I thought so too, until I woke up." Jesse's stomach tightened. "What is going on here?" he asked, looking between them. Ellison took a step forward, his voice trembling. "Jesse, this is where everything changes. Where it's all been leading." The figure spoke again, voice almost mechanical. "You were always meant to find this place, Jesse. The question now is, will you choose to leave? Or will you become a part of the next step?" Jesse's breath caught in his throat. "What are you talking about?" Ellison turned sharply, grabbing him by the arm. "Don't listen to them. Don't let them control you." Jesse yanked his arm away. "Control me? What are you talking about, Ellison? You've been playing me this whole time, haven't you?" Ellison's face twisted with regret. "Not playing you, Jesse. Protecting you. Keeping you alive." "But for what?" Jesse demanded. The figure smiled again, almost pityingly. "Because you are the key. The one who can stop it all." The air in the room shifted again. A low hum filled the space, growing louder by the second. Jesse glanced around frantically. "What is that sound?" Ellison's eyes widened. "Too late," he whispered. The figure stepped forward. "You're already in too deep, Jesse. You can't walk away from this now." The ground beneath their feet trembled. The hum grew deafening. Jesse felt it in his chest, vibrating through his bones. Then the room went dark. Complete darkness. Jesse's heart raced. A low, familiar voice echoed through the silence. "Time's up, Jesse." Jesse's breath came in rapid bursts. The darkness seemed to swallow him whole, pulling him into a void. He reached out, but his hands met nothing but cold air. A heavy weight pressed against his chest, and for a moment, he couldn't move. His mind raced. What is happening? Then, as suddenly as it had fallen, the darkness lifted. The room was now lit with a harsh, white light. Jesse squinted against the brightness. He looked around, but nothing had changed. The figure in the lab coat stood at the console, tapping something into the keyboard. Ellison was standing motionless beside him, his face drawn tight with worry. But Jesse didn't feel like he was seeing everything. The room shifted, just slightly. And Jesse realized with a jolt, he wasn't standing on the same floor anymore. This was a different place. A different reality. What is this? The walls flickered, and for a split second, they seemed to dissolve into something else. It was like they were in two places at once. Ellison noticed Jesse's confusion. "Do not touch anything," he warned, his voice strained. But Jesse could not look away. In the corner of the room, a massive screen came to life. On it, a map of the world unfolded. Cities blinked red, marked with an eerie glow. Jesse moved toward it, drawn in by the map's intensity. "What is this?" he whispered. Ellison stepped in front of him, blocking his view. "You are not supposed to see this yet," he said firmly. But Jesse's eyes widened. "This is what you've been hiding." Ellison's expression hardened. "Not hiding. Protecting." Jesse shook his head. "It's too late for that." "What is this system?" The figure in the lab coat turned slowly. "Protocol Blackbird," they said coldly. Jesse froze. The words hit him like a punch. "What do you mean, Protocol Blackbird?" Ellison stepped forward, his face pale. "You're standing on the edge of a global shift, Jesse. This isn't just about Chicago, or even America." The figure spoke again, their voice colder now. "Everything you thought was normal is a lie." The map on the screen flickered again, and the red markers pulsed in rhythm. "Do you see the cities?" the figure asked. Jesse nodded. "They are targets," the figure continued. "Global powers have been activating this protocol for years. Hidden deep beneath governments, corporations, and military networks. They've been preparing for the collapse of the current order." Jesse's mind raced, struggling to comprehend what he was hearing. He turned to Ellison. "Is this true?" Ellison didn't answer. Instead, his eyes were fixed on the figure, who spoke once more. "Protocol Blackbird is the last phase. The final step in erasing the old world. Once the countdown hits 0, all communication, all systems, will be wiped clean. A new age will begin. One you will never recognize." Jesse's stomach twisted. "No. This can't be real. This cannot be happening. You need to stop it," he said urgently. "How?" Ellison turned to him, his face hardening. "There's a failsafe, but it's locked behind layers of encrypted systems. We need to access the code." Before he could finish, the hum from earlier returned. It was louder now. More intense. The figure's eyes flickered toward the screen. "Too late," they whispered. Jesse's eyes shot to the map again. One of the red markers blinked. Then another. And another. The countdown began. "Wait!" Jesse shouted. But it was already happening. The figure stepped away from the console. "You cannot stop it now," they said. Ellison grabbed Jesse's arm. "We have one shot," he said. "We have to make it to the mainframe." The countdown was ticking faster. Faster. Jesse's mind raced. This was bigger than anything he could imagine. But there was no time to think. No time to second guess. With a sudden, sharp decision, Jesse pulled away from Ellison. He ran toward the screen. He could stop this. He had to. But before he could reach it, the door slammed shut. The lights flickered. A new voice echoed in the room. "It is too late. The protocol is in motion." Jesse spun around. The voice was cold. Final. The figure in the lab coat had already vanished. And in the silence, Jesse realized. The countdown was unstoppable. Jesse's pulse thudded in his ears. He tried to force the door open. But it didn't budge. He turned to Ellison. "Tell me you have a plan." Ellison's face was ashen. "I thought I did," he said quietly. But his eyes betrayed him, he was as lost as Jesse. The countdown on the screen continued, ticking down faster with every passing second. Jesse's mind raced. The hum was louder now. A mechanical drone that seemed to vibrate through his bones. "We're running out of time," Jesse said, his voice shaking. Ellison's hand shook as he fumbled with his phone, trying to reach someone. But there was no signal. Only static. The tension in the room thickened. Jesse felt the weight of the seconds slipping away. Each moment stretched, unbearable. Ellison. Jesse snapped. We need to get to that mainframe. Now. Ellison's eyes darted around the room, desperate. He saw the bank of monitors, blinking with red lights, each one feeding into the countdown. There's a back door, but it's going to take a minute to crack it. Jesse didn't wait. He rushed to the console, hitting keys at random. But it didn't work. His fingers were too frantic, too panicked. The clock was ticking. The hum reverberated in his chest. The countdown read, 10. 9. 8. Ellison stepped up beside him. Slow down, he said urgently. Focus. Jesse stared at the screen. But the numbers kept dropping. Suddenly, the whole building seemed to shake. The walls groaned. Jesse looked up. A crack ran through the ceiling. What the hell was happening? Ellison grabbed Jesse's arm. We don't have much time left, he said. We need to move. Now. No. Jesse shouted, pulling away. I can't just leave. I need to stop it. Ellison looked at him with dark eyes, filled with regret. You can't stop it, Jesse. It's already started. We have to survive. Jesse shook his head. No. I can't just let everything burn. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered again. And the countdown reached 0. The building shuddered. Jesse felt a wave of heat rush through the air. Then. Silence. The room went dark. A cold, unnatural stillness enveloped them. Jesse's breath caught in his throat. What had just happened? Ellison stumbled backward. God help us, he whispered. Jesse couldn't breathe. The screens in the room went blank. But something was still there. A presence. Something, watching. Ellison, Jesse croaked. Do you feel that? Ellison didn't respond. His eyes were wide. Stay close, he whispered. And then. A sharp, metallic sound echoed through the room. Jesse spun around. The back door was opening. But not by their hands. There was something on the other side. Something moving. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the doorway. Tall. Dark. Unblinking eyes. A mask. But no sound. Ellison froze. Get down, he shouted. But it was too late. The figure lunged. And everything went black. Jesse's world flipped upside down. He crashed to the cold floor. The air left his lungs in a sharp gasp. Pain exploded in his side, but he barely felt it. The figure loomed over him. Its movements were unnervingly fast. Jesse barely had time to react. The figure reached down, grabbing him by the collar. The grip was iron-tight. He struggled, his breath ragged, but it was useless. Ellison shouted from behind him, Jesse, get up. Jesse couldn't focus. The figure's eyes were hidden behind a smooth black mask. It was impossible to read any emotion. But Jesse could feel the weight of it. This was no ordinary enemy. The figure's hand tightened, pulling Jesse up. With a swift motion, the figure threw him against the wall. The impact rattled his skull, stars flashing in his vision. Ellison rushed forward, but the figure was faster. In one swift motion, it moved toward Ellison, blocking his path. Jesse's head spun. He tried to move, but his body refused to cooperate. Ellison's voice rang out again. Jesse, get to the mainframe. Now. But Jesse's limbs were like lead. He watched in a daze as Ellison fought. The figure was too strong. It knocked Ellison aside effortlessly. Jesse's heart pounded in his chest. This can't be happening. This can't be real. But the figure was real. And it was coming for him. It reached down, its cold, gloved hands moving with purpose. Jesse barely managed to crawl away. His body was slow, weighed down by dread. Then, a loud crash sounded from above. The ceiling shattered, sending debris crashing to the floor. Dust filled the air. A new figure emerged through the debris. Tall. Broad-shouldered. And unmistakably, human. Jesse's eyes widened in shock. "Who?" he whispered, trying to make sense of it. Ellison had made it to his feet again. He was gasping for air, his voice hoarse. "They're here. The ones who can stop it." The new figure reached down and grabbed the masked figure by the arm. In a single motion, they twisted the masked figure's arm behind its back. The masked figure let out a strangled grunt. The newcomer didn't say a word. It simply lifted the masked figure off the ground and slammed it into the wall. Jesse could feel the shock wave in his chest. The masked figure staggered, unbalanced. Ellison stood frozen. "Who are you?" Jesse finally managed to say. The newcomer's face was hidden under a helmet, but the voice was unmistakable. "I'm the one who ends this," the figure said. Jesse didn't understand. But before he could ask, the newcomer moved. It wasn't fast. It was efficient. With a single strike, the masked figure went down, crumpling to the floor in a heap. The room fell silent again. Jesse gasped for air, barely able to comprehend what had just happened. Ellison stepped forward, his voice shaking. How are you here?" The newcomer's voice was low, steady. "Because someone had to come. Someone had to stop them." Jesse finally found his feet, feeling the urgency in the air. The countdown was still ticking down somewhere, though he couldn't hear it now. It was still happening. The newcomer looked at him. "You need to leave. Now." Jesse's breath caught. Ellison nodded quickly. "Where?" Jesse asked, his voice tight with fear. "To the backup command center," the newcomer said. Ellison shook his head. "There's no time. We're too far gone." The newcomer's gaze hardened. "You can still stop it." "But how?" Jesse asked desperately. The newcomer turned and pointed toward the far end of the room. A massive vault door stood at the far wall, etched with complex symbols. "That's the mainframe. Only one of you can enter," the figure said. Jesse's heart skipped a beat. "One of us," he repeated, confused. "You'll know what to do once you're inside," the figure said. "But make no mistake, once you open that door, everything changes." Jesse swallowed hard. It was his choice. But could he trust this mysterious figure? Or was it already too late to matter? Jesse's heart pounded in his chest. The vault door loomed ahead, its ancient symbols glowing faintly in the dim light. Ellison stepped forward, his hand outstretched as if to block Jesse's path. "We can't trust them," he muttered, his voice strained with panic. Jesse's eyes flicked from Ellison to the newcomer. "What if this is the endgame? What if we're walking into a trap?" The newcomer's helmeted head tilted slightly, as if studying him. "You don't have a choice," they said, voice cold. Ellison took a step back. "Jesse, don't do it," he warned. Jesse didn't respond. Instead, he took a deep breath and walked toward the vault. He felt the weight of the decision pressing on him, the urgency of time slipping away. The countdown still lingered in his mind, ticking away in the background like a ghost. He reached the door and pressed his palm against it. A strange warmth spread through his hand, then a cold shiver up his spine as the door responded. The symbols on the surface flickered to life, glowing brighter. The air around him seemed to thicken, and for a moment, he felt as though the world was holding its breath. Jesse glanced back at Ellison, who whose eyes were wide with a mix of fear and desperation. "Jesse, no!" Ellison shouted, but it was too late. The door slid open with a deep, metallic groan, revealing a dark, hollow space within. A chill ran through Jesse's body as he stepped inside, his instincts screaming at him to stop. But the figure outside the vault didn't move. It just stood there, silent, waiting. Ellison, however, hesitated at the threshold. I can't let you do this alone," he said, his voice shaking. But Jesse didn't wait for him. He stepped forward into the blackness of the room, the vault door closing with a heavy thud behind him. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of dust and metal. He could barely see anything. Then, a light flickered on. Not from above, but from within the walls themselves. The room illuminated, revealing strange machinery and technology Jesse had never seen before. Screens flickered to life, each displaying cryptic symbols, scrolling numbers, and lines of code. Jesse walked forward, each step echoing in the silence. He had no idea what he was looking at, but somehow, he felt the gravity of the moment. The machinery hummed beneath his feet, pulsing with an eerie energy. "Welcome, Jesse." The voice came from nowhere and everywhere, deep and resonant. He froze. The voice continued. "You've made it this far. But now you must make the final choice." Jesse's heart skipped a beat. "What choice?" he asked, his voice hoarse. The screens before him flashed, displaying images of cities. Familiar cities. The red marks from earlier. Only now, they were moving. Spreading. Growing. A map of the world unfolded, and Jesse realized, this was the countdown. The end was closer than he thought. "You can stop it," the voice said again. "But to do so, you must sacrifice what you hold most dear." Jesse's mind raced. What did that mean? What was he supposed to sacrifice? The screens continued to flicker, revealing different faces, people he knew, people he loved. Ellison. His family. Strangers. The sacrifice was clear. But could he do it? Could he destroy everything he cared about to save the world? The voice was waiting for him to decide. Time was running out. Jesse's pulse thundered in his ears as the seconds stretched into eternity. He reached for the nearest terminal, his fingers trembling as he typed in commands at random. But the screens only showed the same images, the same faces. The countdown was accelerating. "It's too much. I can't do this," he thought, panic rising. Then, he heard the voice again, this time softer. "The final choice, Jesse. It's not just about saving the world, it's about saving yourself." Jesse stopped. His breath hitched. "What do you mean?" "The power you're holding in your hands right now," the voice said, "can change everything. But it will change you too." Jesse didn't understand. His mind was a whirlwind. "Choose now, Jesse." The countdown reached its final seconds. Jesse's hand hovered over the terminal. The weight of the world pressing down on him. Everything was on the line. His future. The world's future. He had to decide. But with that decision, everything would change. Jesse's fingers hovered over the terminal, trembling. The seconds on the countdown seemed to slow, each tick like a hammer against his skull. He felt the weight of the world pressing on him, every decision, every life, all hanging in the balance. A part of him wanted to run, to leave this behind and forget it all. But the voice in the dark wouldn't let him. "Choose," it urged again. His heart thudded in his chest, and his mind raced. He looked at the screens, the images of the people he cared about flashing before him. Ellison. His family. Strangers whose faces were now strangers to him. What do I sacrifice? Jesse swallowed hard, steeling himself. He had always thought of himself as a man of action, someone who could fix anything. But this was beyond anything he could have imagined. With a sharp breath, Jesse pressed a key. The screens flickered once more, displaying the final countdown. 3. The terminal buzzed. A series of doors opened behind him, revealing more rows of machines, more technology he didn't understand. This was it. The moment. He had made his choice. The voice was quiet now, almost distant. You chose, Jesse. But do you understand the cost? Jesse turned back to the main screen, his hands still shaking. In the center of the room, an image appeared, his family, standing together in a calm, peaceful moment. The world outside seemed to freeze. He closed his eyes. This is for them. He reached forward again, typing in a new set of commands. The hum of the machinery deepened, vibrating through his bones. The light above flickered as if the room itself was reacting to his decision. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. What if I'm wrong? A distant voice answered his unspoken fear. Sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that shape the future. Jesse gritted his teeth, his heart pounding. But then, the countdown resumed. It reached 1. Then, everything went dark. The screens went black. Jesse staggered back, his eyes wide. The room was silent. The hum of the machines was gone. There was no voice, no countdown, no rush of technology. The weight on his chest lifted, and for the first time in what felt like hours, he could breathe. But it wasn't over. In the quiet, a new noise filled the air. A faint, almost imperceptible beeping. Jesse's eyes snapped to the terminal. A single line of text flashed. Protocol halted. Restart sequence initiated. The words felt like a dagger in his heart. No. He whispered. Behind him, a sound echoed, footsteps. He turned quickly, his body tensing. Ellison stood in the doorway, his face pale. Did you? But Jesse couldn't answer. He watched the text flash again. Restart sequence complete. New parameters activated. The machines around him hummed back to life. The walls trembled. The room was shaking, louder this time, as if the entire facility was waking up. Jesse backed away, his pulse racing once again. Something had gone wrong. The door to the vault began to slide open, slowly. And there, standing in the doorway, was the masked figure. It didn't move, just stood there, watching. Jesse couldn't tear his eyes away. His breath was shallow. Had the protocol truly been stopped? Or was this just the beginning? Jesse, Ellison said, his voice a whisper, what have you done? Jesse didn't know. But he had the feeling that the true cost of his choice had only just begun. Jesse felt a cold sweat break out across his forehead. The masked figure stood motionless in the doorway, its presence heavy and unyielding. Ellison stepped back, his voice trembling. What are we dealing with, Jesse? Jesse couldn't take his eyes off the figure. It didn't move, didn't even breathe. The air seemed to thicken around them, pressing down, suffocating. Stay calm, Jesse said, though his own voice wavered. Ellison looked at him with wide eyes. You're the one who pressed the button. What happens now? Jesse didn't know. He swallowed hard, trying to piece together the fragments of the situation. The countdown had stopped, so why was the masked figure still here? What was it waiting for? The beeping from the terminal continued, faster now. Restart sequence complete. Jesse's heart skipped. The words on the screen flickered again, and the machinery around him hummed to life. Suddenly, the masked figure moved. It was slow at first, but then it surged forward, faster than Jesse could track. Ellison shouted in warning, but it was too late. The figure reached out, grabbing Jesse by the arm with a vice-like grip. Jesse struggled, trying to free himself, but it was impossible. The figure's touch was cold, like ice seeping into his skin. He gasped, his chest tightening. "You made your choice," the figure said, its voice cold, mechanical. Jesse's mind raced. "What do you mean?" The figure didn't respond immediately. It seemed to study him for a moment, its mask unblinking. Then, in one swift motion, it pulled Jesse closer, its cold breath brushing against his ear. "You activated the protocol, but you didn't understand what it meant," the figure murmured. Jesse's eyes widened. "What is it?" he whispered. "Everything has consequences," the figure said. "Your decision to stop the countdown." The figure paused, as if savoring the moment. "You've just opened the door to a new beginning. A new kind of chaos." Jesse's stomach dropped. Chaos. Had he unleashed something far worse than he could have imagined? Behind him, the terminal beeped louder, and the screens lit up once more. The countdown, now reset, began again. But this time, the numbers weren't the same. The sequence was different. Something had changed. "Ellison," Jesse said, his voice urgent, "we need to leave. Now." Ellison didn't hesitate. He grabbed Jesse's arm, pulling him toward the exit. But the masked figure didn't let go. It dragged Jesse back, its grip unyielding. "You cannot escape it now," the figure said. Jesse's heart pounded. Ellison turned, panic in his eyes. "We have to get out of here." But the doors slammed shut. They were trapped. The walls of the room began to pulse with a dark energy. Jesse could feel it in his bones, the air thick with an unnatural force. Ellison backed up, his breathing ragged. "Jesse, what did you do?" he whispered, his voice a mix of fear and disbelief. The figure didn't answer. It just stood there, watching. Jesse could feel the weight of its gaze. And then, a new sound filled the room, an almost otherworldly hum, vibrating through the floor, the walls, the air. It was building, growing louder. Ellison's eyes darted around the room, desperately searching for a way out. But there was no escape. The doors were locked. The screens flickered again, and a new message appeared. Final countdown initiated. System failure imminent. Jesse's chest tightened. His mind raced. It was happening again, only this time, it felt worse. The countdown wasn't just a number, it was a warning. He looked back at the figure. "What's going to happen?" The figure tilted its head, as if considering the question. "Everything is about to change," it said. Ellison grabbed Jesse's arm, pulling him toward the far corner of the room. "We need to get to the backup system," he said urgently. But the moment he took a step forward, the room shook violently. The hum grew deafening. Jesse's knees buckled. "This is it," he thought. The walls began to crack, and the entire building seemed to tremble under the force of the energy building within it. The masked figure took a single step forward. And then, everything went dark. Jesse's vision blurred as the room was consumed by an intense blackness. For a moment, he couldn't feel anything. No pressure on his chest. No weight on his limbs. Just the suffocating void. Then, with a sudden jolt, everything shifted. The hum stopped. The trembling ceased. Jesse blinked, disoriented. When his eyes adjusted, he found himself standing outside, back in the open air. The cold night sky stretched above him, the stars twinkling as if nothing had happened. Ellison stood beside him, equally stunned, his hands trembling. What just happened?" Ellison whispered, his voice barely audible. Jesse didn't have an answer. His mind felt fragmented, pieces of the chaos still swirling in his head. But one thing was clear, they had survived. For now. The distant sound of sirens echoed, drawing closer. Jesse looked around. The building that had once held them captive was gone, nothing but rubble and ruins remained. As if it had never existed. Did we stop it? Jesse asked, his voice hoarse. Ellison turned to him, his eyes haunted. I don't know. They both stared at the ruins, unsure of what to make of it. They had crossed a line, done something irreversible. The world around them felt different. Changed. And yet, there was no victory. No triumphant moment of redemption. Only uncertainty. Jesse took a deep breath, the cool air filling his lungs. He glanced at the sky again, feeling the weight of what they had narrowly escaped. Whatever we did, he said slowly, we've only delayed something. Not stopped it. Ellison's gaze hardened. I don't think this is over, Jesse. A shiver ran down Jesse's spine, and for the first time, he wondered if they had truly escaped at all. The unknown still loomed. The danger was still out there. And the choices they had made would echo far beyond that room. Maybe we'll never know, Jesse said quietly. But we have to keep going. Ellison nodded, the weight of the decision heavy between them. Yeah. We do. As the sound of sirens grew louder, Jesse and Ellison walked away, knowing that the battle was far from over. And though they had survived this moment, the darkness they had unleashed might very well be waiting for them in the next. The world was changing. And they, too, would have to change with it.